What's up, guys? John Carlo, the Fancast Live podcast. So, bad news for the New York Mets yesterday as reports started to circulate that Jacob deGrom is going to be shut down the first 4 weeks of the season due to inflammation in his throwing shoulder. He's going to be reevaluated after the 4 weeks. I'm sure they're going to perform another MRI to see if that inflammation has gone down. If that's the case, they're probably going to allow him to throw a short bullpen session to see if that inflammation acts up again. If it does not, and we hope it doesn't, he is going to be allowed to resume baseball activities to where he probably will require 3 to 4 weeks to prepare for his first start of the season, which means we're looking at possibly the beginning of June before we see Jacob deGrom on the mound for the New York Mets here in 2022. I don't believe that this is in any way, shape, or form a time to panic. Mets fans, I know, are on Twitter right now. Some are in panic. Some think that the season is over for some reason. But when you really think about it, I think the Mets are still in good shape with Max Scherzer and Bassett at the top of the rotation for the New York Mets. Yes, Scherzer did get pulled out of his intra-squad start yesterday on Saturday due to some tightness in his hamstring. It's something he's been dealing with for the last week or two. It's not anything to be concerned about. It's just tightness. It's not a pull. So I think the Mets are just using some precaution here and allowing Scherzer to heal if they have any intentions of starting him on opening day. And listen, even if Max Scherzer does not start opening day, you still have Bassett to start game one. Maybe you push Scherzer to the second game of that series, maybe possibly the third. If not, just skip him through the first series and start him in the second series. Just allow him an additional time to heal that hamstring to make sure that nothing serious becomes of it. So as far as panic is concerned amongst Mets fans, there's really no reason to panic right now. Jacob deGrom, I think, is going to be okay. According to an article in the New York Post, I forget who the doctor was, but the specialist says that this is not a serious injury. It's not an injury that's going to require any kind of surgery. He feels that this is an injury, stress that he put on his shoulder due to the possibility of him changing his approach to the plate. Maybe his mechanics are a little off because he's trying to not re-injure that elbow. Whatever the reason is, there's obviously a reason behind the stress that he put on his shoulder and the reason why he now has this inflammation. So it's just a matter of time before he heals. We're hoping that in 4 weeks, when they reevaluate him, the inflammation is gone, that it's not going to be a problem going forward. The only time that I would panic is if in 4 weeks when he's reevaluated, the inflammation still hasn't gone down to where he's going to miss additional time, which means he's going to go further and further into the season before he resumes baseball activities, to where it's going to require him even further time to prepare for his first start. So we might be looking at even July. That's when I would start getting worried. I don't know about panic, but I would start getting worried. As long as Scherzer and Bassett and Walker, Carrasco, McGill, Peterson all stay healthy, the Mets should be fine. Now, yesterday, Saturday, you started hearing reports and rumors that the Mets were talking to the San Diego Padres in regard to a trade that would have sent Dom Smith to the Padres, and in return, the Mets would receive Chris Paddock, Emilio Pagan, and Eric Hosmer. Yes, you heard me right, Eric Hosmer. Now, a lot of Mets fans were on Twitter yesterday bitching and complaining about this trade. I don't quite honestly like it, but as the day progressed, more reports started to come out, and you started to get a more clearer picture of what the Mets' plans were with this trade. So according to the New York Post, the Mets were going to deal Dom Smith to the Padres. The Mets would have gotten Paddock, Pagan, and Hosmer. And from the reports from the New York Post, they're reporting that Eric Hosmer was going to be flipped in another deal with another team. Who that team was going to be, I have no idea. But there's a clause in Eric Hosmer's contract that states that if he is traded by the San Diego Padres to another team, that the no trade clause kicks in on his contract going to the next team, which at this in this instance, it would be the New York Mets, which means that if the Mets had any intentions of flipping him to another team, they could no longer do so unless obviously you get his permission to do it. And if it's a team that probably was a non-contender, I'm pretty sure Eric Hosmer has every right to veto it and wouldn't go. The good thing is if the deal would have gone through, the Padres were going to eat up most of the 4 years, $59 million left on his deal, to where the Mets would be stuck with, I think, $6.25 million for the next 4 years. The question here is how does that deal? How would that deal have made sense for the New York Mets? Yeah, you deal Dom Smith, so pretty much Eric Hosmer would take the place of Dom Smith on your roster as your backup first baseman, left-handed DH. But you already have a left-handed DH in Cano, so you still have to find at bats for Eric Hosmer. Were the Mets going to play Eric Hosmer at first base and DH Alonso? That means that now you have to find at bats for Robinson Cano and everybody else that's on that bench, J.D. Davis and and Nito and Guillorme and Jankowski possibly, even Nick Plummer if he makes the team. So it didn't quite make sense to me, but when I started hearing the rumors and read the article in the New York Post that the Mets had every intention of flipping Eric Hosmer, and the reason why this trade ended up being nixed is because of that clause in Eric Hosmer's contract. Then you heard the trade between the Padres and Oakland A's where Minaya went from the A's to the Padres. That is a great deal for the Padres. That's going to solidify their rotation. I think that Chris Paddock coming to the Mets was obviously more for depth. And from what I'm hearing as well is that this deal was in the works for the last maybe 4 or 5 days. So it's not something that just happened after the Mets got the news about Jacob deGrom. This was already something in the works that was sitting on Steve Cohen's desk waiting for his approval on his deal. And obviously when Steve Cohen got wind that Eric Hosmer had a clause in his contract, probably said, you know what, maybe it's not a good idea we do this trade if we can get rid of that Eric Hosmer contract. So ultimately, I think that's the reason why that deal doesn't get done. And I'm kind of glad it doesn't because, quite honestly, Chris Paddock really doesn't tickle my fancy. He just is more, a 4 or 5 starter for the New York Mets, if that. He may have been, thrown at the bottom of the totem pole behind the likes of Peterson, McGill, Williams, and Yamamoto. Lucchesi obviously is still in the picture, but he's still recovering from Tommy John surgery, so you may not see him until later on in the season. So as far as depth is concerned, the Mets have plenty of depth. I think the Mets were just looking to add more depth to this rotation. But if at this point, if the Mets, I think at this point the Mets are probably going to start looking for a top of the rotation pitcher again, because there's no guarantee that Jacob deGrom is going to be back, June 1st. Maybe he has a setback where he has to lose additional amount of time. Maybe the Mets go and make a deal for another starter, maybe a 2 or 3 type starter. I wouldn't necessarily go and get another 4 or 5 because it really doesn't make sense unless he's an innings eater. If you can get an innings eater, you don't necessarily have to get a guy who is going to go on the mound and give you 7 innings and get you a win every time. But you definitely need somebody who's going to eat up 6, 7 innings and try to take off some of the pressure from the bullpen. So I'm sure you're going to start hearing some news reports in the next couple of days about the Mets looking to acquire another pitcher. Listen, they have some assets in the minors that they can trade. Ronnie Mauricio, to me, really became expendable once the Mets signed the likes of Francisco Lindor. Yeah, there's always a possibility that you could play Ronnie Mauricio at second base, but right now the Mets do have Jeff McNeil there. I don't know what their plans right now with Jeff McNeil are. Maybe they do trade him, maybe they don't trade him. I think Jeff McNeil is a great hitter, and he's a pretty serviceable second baseman. So I don't know what the Mets' plans for Ronnie Mauricio are, but if you can go and make a call to the Oakland A's and try to get Mantris or whatever his name is, the other pitcher that's in that rotation in a Mets uniform, and Ronnie Mauricio is the guy that's going to get that deal done, then by all means get that deal done and get another pitcher in here just in case Jacob deGrom is going to miss extended time beyond June. So that's that. The Mets did make a trade yesterday, and believe it or not, with the New York Yankees, they sent right-handed reliever Miguel Castro to the Yankees for left-handed reliever Joely Rodriguez, I think his name was, J-Rod, if you want to call him that. The Mets are looking for a left-handed specialist. I don't even know if that even exists anymore now with the three-hitter rule in place. Uh, that pretty much took away uh, a manager's ability to make changes during, for matchup reasons. Now you don't do that because of the three-hitter rule. Every pitcher that comes in has to face a hitter three times before he exits the game. So, but the Mets did need a left-handed reliever in the bullpen. They do have Shreve. Trying to look at my list here. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think Shreve, and there was another guy. I forget what his name was. That's in camp right now. Uh, fighting for that left-handed spot in the bullpen. So Rodriguez is definitely going to add some depth in that category. Whether or not he makes a team, I have no idea. I know he spent some time with the Rangers last year before being traded to the Yankees. He has coughed up quite a few home runs. I believe 35 in 4 years or 45 in 4 years. No, I think it's 35 in 4 years. I could be wrong, but it is a lot of home runs. But the Mets obviously felt that he has enough talent that they were willing to risk trading Miguel Castro for. Miguel Castro, he's been a very serviceable right-handed reliever for the New York Mets. I think he's got elite stuff. At times, he's had his problems with control uh, to the point where it aggravated a lot of Mets fans. But hey, listen, what relief pitcher, what starting pitcher doesn't have control issues every so often? You just have to deal with it. You just have to fight through it, and try to right the ship somehow and get yourself and mentally and physically into the game. But I'm assuming that the Mets had to see something in Joely Rodriguez in order to trade Miguel Castro to the Yankees. The Yankees were looking for a right-handed reliever, a power pitcher that could come out of the bullpen late in the game. So I think he's going to do really good in the Bronx. So good luck to him on that. I think that's all I got. So I'm going to be posting a podcast very soon, previewing the New York Mets 2022 season. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about Jacob deGrom and the Mets rotation, as well as their bullpen and their everyday lineup. So look for that in the next week or so before the season starts. I should say probably the next 3-4 days before the season starts on the 7th. So until then, let's go Mets. Peace.